Let's go. Boom. Uh was another episode of the Pavelcast. And here we are. It's my absolute joy to welcome Adam Unger.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. So let's give people a little bit. I want to call this podcast "Follow Your Dreams." You're one of the guys that I know, kind of one of the only people I truly know who's like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, no matter what, which I think is really hard for people. So you started out in baseball, right? That was like your first dream, and you were like, "Let me become a baseball player." Did that happen?
Yeah, I started off, playing baseball before I can remember. So,
Like when you
it's
were a
kind of like
kid? Like how old?
yeah, when I was 5. It's sort of like an aspiration that generated unconsciously because I don't like remember the decision of, oh, I want to play baseball because I was too young,
Hmm.
you know. But but I got very into it at a young age, and my dad is. He was it was like having a motivational speaker for a father. The more I look back on it, and I think he kind of taught me to be maybe like unrealistically uh, brave in going after what I wanted to go after, and sort of this belief that um, if I think I can do something, that I can do it no matter what. And I think he was pretty supportive in that too. Some people have plans for their kid to be X, Y, and Z, and he never planned for me to become a baseball player. He was a lawyer himself, although he did sing as well. Um,
Mm.
you know,
And
he,
then for the record, you are a lawyer now.
yeah, I'm a lawyer now too. So I think I have this memory when I was a kid of my dad reading me the book "The Little Engine That Could" over and over again, which is like a famous children's book about an engine who keeps saying, "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." So when I was 7 years old, 8 years old, I remember thinking, now I'm going to be this great baseball player. I'm going to play for the Yankees. I'm going to do all these things. And where most people would say that maybe that's unrealistic, to me it was like I was really going to do it, and I was going to do whatever it took to get there, which brought on burdens, as with every dream. When you try to achieve it, brings on burdens with that dream, because you can't just sort of sit there and do nothing. So yeah, I was really into baseball.
So you practiced a lot. You were part of like
I
camps and
practiced all the
everything.
time. Yeah, I didn't. I had a lot of disadvantages too. I'm only 5'8". I
Yeah.
wasn't that fast of a runner.
You're Jewish.
So I'm Jewish. Yeah. So although I had some substantial amount of athletic ability, compared to let's say guys who are stars, or you might think of I don't know, Derek Jeters or Alex
Hmm.
Rodriguez, guys like that. I had relatively little talent when it came to size, strength, and just pure speed. Although I was very coordinated, so I had to work very, very hard on sort of building a lot of those things artificially that I didn't have uh, from a talent perspective.
Hmm.
And so, you
So
know,
curious, like, what did you? So you went to these camps. You finished high school, and then did you play college baseball, or
no,
did you go straight into
yeah,
camps?
I signed with Florida State University my senior year of high school, and then I got drafted by the Yankees, and I decided to forego going to college for the time and play for the Yankees, mostly because it was just the Yankees, and I was
That's a
so
dream come
excited
true,
about
right?
it.
Holy moly!
Yeah, it was a dream come true for me. And I didn't know, like, I kind of knew that I wasn't like a crazy, top prospect. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I think that I can go back now and analyze
Why'd they
more of
sign you?
my, huh?
Why'd they sign you?
Well, because I was good enough to get drafted, but I wasn't a what you might call a top prospect.
Hmm.
I mean, I the 60-yard dash is a big measuring stick of speed for baseball players,
Okay.
and you got to kind of run it in 7 seconds is very average. And but if you're smaller, like someone like me, then you want to be in like the 6'7", 6'8", even 6'6" area, because you want to be a base stealing threat. You want to have a very dynamic game in that respect. Me, when I was a sophomore, a junior in high school, I think I ran the 60-yard dash in 8.3 seconds.
Oops.
Which is a basically non-starter for some. Like, you could be the greatest fielder, you could be a great hitter, but at my size, if you're running that slow, done. A lot of that had to do with strength and maturity and things like that. But, some guys, they just they just get out of bed, and they're running in 6'8", 6'9", 6'7", right, just pure talent. So basically my entire junior and senior year of high school, I basically became like a track athlete. I was doing everything possible, training like I was training for the 100-meter dash in the Olympics.
Right.
In order to get my speed down, because over 60 yards a second is humongous.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Over that short distance. So, but by the time I got drafted, I ran a 7.1, which is still not good, but it was just good enough. And let me tell you, I did not go out with my friends at all my senior of high school. I did nothing. I didn't even concentrate on my schoolwork. I was practicing every day like an animal.
Yeah.
So I learned kind of that you can always do more than you think you can if you're a good mimic. If you're able to like look at someone that does something really, really well naturally and say to yourself, okay, how do I become more like them? And if you train the right way and you dedicate yourself to it and you're adaptable, you can become better than you think you can. But that still gets to my main point, which is that even after all that work, I still wasn't fast enough to really be what you might consider a base stealing threat, which at my size would have been a necessity. And then I think my second year of spring training, I ran a 6.9, which was pretty fast. But the amount of work that I did to run a 6.9, most people, I probably spent 400 hours, 500 hours, more than that, 1,000 hours, who the hell knows, to get my running speed to be a 6.9. When a lot of people I was playing with, they spent 0 hours to get their running speed to a 6.9. They just kind of like,
I get it. Totally.
Already.
Were there naysayers? I mean, there must have been who were like, "Oh my God, you're coming in with an 8.2. What are you even doing here? Like, you need to stop immediately."
There were tons of people in high school who were like, "Oh, this kid sucks. He's not good," And looking back on it, I actually underperformed for the level of ability that I did have, because I didn't have enough confidence. I think that the people that I saw who succeed professionally, they have an irrational amount of confidence in themselves, especially the ones that succeed who don't have the most athletic talent. It's like you have like a graph. Like, the more physical ability you have, the more of a screw up you can be mentally and still be really good. But the less physical ability you have, the more mentally you have to be really, really, really sharp, because it makes a huge difference, I have to say. Like, I did have games where I had a lot of confidence. I was very relaxed, and things slowed down for you. It may be on the edge of things, like, on the margin, but that margin is very, very important, and you kind of have to have that personality where you're very intense and you care, but you almost are playing in a way like it's like you're really confident and you care, but you just don't give a fuck at the same time. And so you're able to just kind of like play to the maximum amount of what your ability is. And actually very few people can do that. Mm-hmm. Very few athletes can get the most out of themselves, right? Because if you look at like the Major League Baseball, most of the differences are not physical. Most of them are probably this guy's getting the most out of himself, whereas the other guy isn't, you know?
I get it.
So
these naysayers were there, and you had to kind of have this confidence that you had to just go against all that. And I guess, I mean, partially probably driven by your dad, or?
Yeah, there was a website that got put up. It was like a commentary on Long Island baseball. And when I got signed by Florida State University, which is one of the best baseball schools in America, they were actually writing on there that my dad gave Florida State $1 million so that they would sign me, which was
that's not true. I imagine
ridiculous. It was totally not true. You know, we grew up in a nice middle class home, but my dad definitely does not have $1 million to throw away to a college information. Yeah. And so like, yeah, I mean, it definitely hurt. You know, you're 18 years old. I mean, how could that not, you know, kind of hurt you? And then you get the feeling when you're playing in games, oh, if I make an out, people are judging me. If I make a mistake, if I make an error, people are judging me. People are looking at me. Mm-hmm. Oh, Adam's not that good. Adam's not that good. And so that can translate into you yourself not thinking that you're that good or that you deserve it. Or like, why are all these good things happening to me? Why do people even think I'm good? I'm really not that good. Like there's a little bit of I think I went through a little bit of an imposter syndrome as well. But, you know, then I look back on videos now of me playing baseball, and I really was very, very outstanding at a lot of things as a baseball player. And I think that people saw how hard I worked and how hard I wanted it. And I think that when you want something very, very badly, in many respects, you can almost will your way to doing it. And I think that is kind of what I did, because I should have been more confident in myself. And I succeeded despite not being as confident as I should have been, mm-hmm. not running as fast as other people, right. Not being as big and as strong as other people. I was a great infielder. Yeah, I had great hand-eye coordination. So I was really good at all the stuff that involved, and I had very good body control. And you know, when I caught a ground ball, I kind of looked like a ballroom dancer. You know, I was very smooth in that way. So I did do some things very, very well, which garnered my attention. And I was a good hitter, and I had good hand-eye coordination, but I wasn't strong. Once my strength came and I kind of figured out how to hit, you know, then I got better at it and started doing better as a hitter, especially when I was playing for the Colorado Rockies in the minor leagues. But
you got traded away from the Yankees? You got traded away from the Yankees?
Yeah, you know, what happened was I actually, again, a confidence thing. I came to spring training and I shocked people because, like, in between the fall and spring of 03 and 04, I got a lot stronger. I was just a different athlete. And people were like, wow, look at this Unger guy. Look what he was able to do in 6 months in the off season. You know, I was able to, you know, hit a home run with a wooden bat in batting practice, which is pretty hard to do. I was hitting the ball probably 100 feet further than I was 6 months before, which will definitely open some eyes for you, you know. But then I actually was stupid, and I listened to some of the wrong people from a technique standpoint on how to hit a baseball. Because just like everything else in life, there are actually a lot of theories on how you should hit a baseball. And most of the people who purport to be hitting experts are actually, you know, don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to the very, very fine, specific things that you need to do to hit at a very, very high level. at least for me. And so I went into spring training with the Yankees, and when I played in the games, I literally just struck out like 10 times out of 12 at-bats. And I lost my confidence. I wasn't doing very well. And the Yankees were probably kind of like, hey, you know what? This guy's not going to get a lot of playing time here. The Colorado Rockies needed an extra infield or whatever. So they sent me packing over to Colorado, which is kind of a shocking thing when you're 18. Be like, hey, by the way, you're moving to Tucson, Arizona. You know, bye.
And there's like you have no choice in the matter, right? Like
no
you just
choice,
have to do what they're telling you to do.
Well, you can quit, but if you want to keep playing, you have no choice.
And they're not paying you like well at this point either, because
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I got a decent signing bonus, and I you know, they put in my contract that if I went back to college, they would pay for a portion of my college tuition, which was nice.
That's good.
But you know, I went to the Rockies, and it was kind of a new start for me. I kind of got away from what I was doing wrong with the Yankees, and I went back to the hitting technique that this guy Sal Agustinelli, who had taught me. Because the one thing is that when the level of play is very, very high, you start to figure out very quickly what works, what doesn't work, and who was full of shit, who was right. And so I really kind of drilled myself back into that technique of hitting, and then I started to hit, and I started to hit very, very well. And I remember a teammate of mine who I'm still friends with. He was a catcher. Name was Steven Gutzman, and he said when I showed up there, everybody was kind of doubting me, like, "Oh, who's that? You know, small white Jewish kid. You know, who's this guy?" And I was facing this guy named Juan Murillo, and he was throwing 100 miles an hour, literally 100 miles an hour. I still remember it today. I mean, the ball comes, it's like the snap of my fingers is like, boom, boom, it's right by you. And I got up against this guy, and I hit a bullet line drive back up the middle. And from that point on, I had everyone's respect.
That's
you know,
awesome.
on the team, as my friend told me, because they were like, wow, this guy actually can play. So I started to gain my confidence, and I started to kind of like be able to hit, you know, be able to find myself as a professional, to be really a professional player. You know what I mean? Not someone who just had the opportunity to play professionally, who was drafted, but really developing into a professional quality level baseball player, which was something I've been working on for a very, very long time.
What was the culture like? Were you living in a hotel room? Did you have an apartment? Were you part of
I was living
family?
I was living in a hotel room with a roommate, and I think the culture is very kind of like fratty. You know, you're with a bunch of like guys who are young, you know, either in their early 20s or late teens. You're mixed in with a bunch of guys, you know, they're from all over the country, from Canada. And then you got a bunch of guys from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, maybe Venezuela, maybe someone from Japan. And it's kind of like this, you know, a lot of times like the American players and the Spanish players, they kind of hung out separately. So, you know, there was a little bit of natural segregation going on because there's a language barrier, there's different culture. You know, the Latin guys a lot of times but I got along with them very well because I actually spoke Spanish because I had taken 7 years of it in middle school and high school.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun, you know.
Did you guys share meals, go out together? Were you allowed to like party?
Share meals, go out, try to go to strip clubs. You know, it was like the first time I had done anything like that. You know, you know, you're not allowed to have girls in your rooms in the minor leagues, which I actually got in trouble for. Because when I was with the Rockies, we decided to bring a bunch of girls back to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I think someone at the hotel told on us. They called the manager, and I wasn't even in the room. And I got in trouble because the girls were in my room. So, I mean, that was a very scary moment. Looking back on it, it's ridiculous. But I don't know why, but they do give speeches to you about, you know, be careful with girls, like, you know, if you have sex with someone, use your condom, don't use theirs. I don't know if we can talk about this in this podcast, but
yeah, we can.
Because I guess there are women out there who will just say, like, I want to impregnate myself by a professional athlete. because you're in some of these
Interesting.
towns in the middle of nowhere, and they'll, I guess maybe they'll take condoms and poke holes on them and try to have a baby with a guy who might, make it to the major leagues.
Weird.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they want you guys just focused on the game and nothing else if possible, which makes sense.
Yeah, they want you focused on baseball, nothing else.
So you spent some time playing with them. What was your exit out of baseball like? Did you spend a long time?
So what's funny is that the day after I got caught with the day after this thing with the
girls
in the room, I actually got released the day after. Now I still don't know if it was because of that, if it was because I wasn't. They didn't. What they said, which was true actually, was that they wanted to keep people in the organization that were kind of clear prospects, and they thought I was really good, but that I wouldn't advance quickly enough. At the time, I was playing pretty well, and I don't think I deserved to get released actually at that time, but it happened.
What does released mean? Is it like getting fired, basically?
Fired. Yeah. Here's your pink slip. So at the time, that's what happened, and I got to say, it was a very weird time in my life because I had known nothing else other than baseball. And for the first time, it hit me mentally. I was like, wait a second. I don't have to play tomorrow if I don't want to. You know what I mean? It was almost like it had gotten to the point where like I had to play because that's what I was and what I was doing. And for the first time, I actually had a choice.
That's interesting, yeah. How did that feel? It probably felt pretty good. Be like, wait.
It actually was a little bit of a relief because I had been under a lot of pressure and stress with baseball for lots of years, trying to make it to the major leagues and achieve this goal. And, it definitely formed my brain. I'm still a very goal-oriented person now, even though I think I'm much more relaxed than I used to be in terms of accomplishments. But yeah, it was shock. It was a little bit of, wow, I can do something else. It was a lot of different things. And I actually was offered after I got released that I could have gotten signed by the Detroit Tigers. But I actually said no. Maybe going back in time, I think maybe I should have said yes, but I thought maybe I should go back to college. Maybe I should do something else. I think I kind of felt in my mind that I had taken my ability as far as I could. And I think like I could have kept going, but I wasn't going to make it. You know what I mean? It's like I had done it. I had already done more maybe than I was even supposed to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting how it's an interesting situation where you have this goal and you're pushing yourself and you're going against all these disadvantages, and you arrive at a point where now you're like, okay, it's still my goal and I've put all this effort in, but at the same time you're able to realize that maybe these physical disadvantages that I have, I just can't, no matter what I do, I can't overcome that. And I'm not going to be a huge baseball player. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be like some of the guys that I saw that just they can't do anything else but play baseball. They're still trying to, make it when they're 25, 26 years old when they're clearly not going to,
Can you move the can, or is the can crucial to the there you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then you went to college. What did you study in college?
So when I went to college, I had after this, like I went into a period where I had no idea what I was going to do because when you grow up and you're doing something that's always your passion all the time, it's very, very difficult to find something to take its place, So, and I had never been like, I guess I was like a smart guy, but never really concentrated on academics. So I kind of like, well, what happened originally is there's a rule in college where you have Division I, Division II, Division III. You have different divisions of NCAA athletics. And I decided to go back to college and play baseball in college because in Division II, college, if you go to college and sit out a year and don't play, the next year you can go back to play. So I was like, I don't want to regret anything. Let me like try to go back to a college and let me play again and see if I can get drafted again. You know what I mean? Like I had like
you didn't actually give up on it.
Yeah, I didn't really give up yet. So I went to but the thing is, after I got back home after I got released from the Rockies, I started to go out and party and have a good time and do things that I never did. You know, like I was like, wait a second, like maybe I can like try to get some girls. Maybe I can like. I was like so sheltered. Like I didn't even know how to talk to a female when I was 18 years old, because like all I had ever done in my life was play baseball.
Interesting.
And this is the type of person I was, and I kind of was like, let me try to do some of these different things that other people had done. You know, I think I very much looked at other people who were different than me, and instead of saying screw it, I'm going to be myself, I actually would try to become that person and kind of like develop the skill that they were good at that I wasn't good at.
Okay.
Does
So
that make any
what's
sense?
it kind of? So this was happening in college. You saw somebody.
Right before I went back to college, I was having a good time, and so I went down to this place, Florida Southern College, to play baseball down there, and I wasn't serious, even though I was playing baseball there, I wasn't really serious about it. You know?
Yeah.
By the way, I lost you on video, but I don't know if it matters.
I'm going to come back in a second, yeah.
All right. So I started to play baseball again, but I wasn't really focusing on it. And so what happened there is the coach at the end of the year was like, hey, we don't want you here. We don't want to play. We don't want you to play here. And by the way, as I was doing this, I was kind of developing an interest in singing this whole time. I started to take some lessons. I started to like try to sing with my voice. I was kind of experimenting with it.
When did that happen? That was happening.
That was during this just period of time where I'm at Florida Southern College, and I started to try to sing.
Where did that come from? Like, what is this passion for singing? And like, when you say
my
sing,
dad
you be
was
like
singing.
opera or?
My dad was a singer, and I was a good singer when I was a kid. I was a very good child, boy soprano singer.
What kind of singing did your dad do? Was he like a professional?
He was like a Frank Sinatra singer.
For fun, or did he do?
Yeah,
clubs?
well, he put himself through law school, singing nightclubs and weddings and things like that.
No shit.
Yeah. Yes. So I started to sing, and I started to get into like, I wanted to be like Josh Groban. I wanted to be like Andrea Bocelli. I thought it would help me like pick up girls. Mm-hmm. You know, I had this whole, thing going, but I started to get really kind of obsessed with it at the time.
And you're like 18 years old? You're like 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, 19 or 20. So at the end of this year, the coach says, we don't want you here. So then I ended up coming back home. I said, I'm going to show these guys. And I ended up going to another college in Connecticut called Post University to play for this guy, Rico Brogna, who used to be the first baseman for the Mets back in the maybe early 2000s, late 90s. I don't remember, or mid 90s. So I went back and I thought I'd really give it a shot again. I'd be back up in the Northeast where the scouts, like me. This whole time I'm kind of singing. And
interesting.
I after playing that year, I kind of realized at the end of that season when I got a chance to play again, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to quit baseball. And I remember my last game, my father was there, my grandfather was there, my last at bat or whatever. And I realized that, like, I don't have the energy or the motivation or the drive to sort of, like, climb Mount Everest in this again, Mm-hmm. So I stopped. I quit. And I never looked back, really. I never looked back, which is weird, I think.
Did you have a talk with your dad and you were like, this is it, this is actually
yeah, I think he knew I was going to, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to quit. Like, I don't want to play anymore, I didn't want to play anymore. I think I tried as hard as I could, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I played, and people ask me, "Do you miss it?" And I say no.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true.
So your exit out of baseball was interesting. So why did you not take the Tigers gig if you kept
I don't
going to
know.
baseball?
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
I think it was because, like, if they sign you as a free agent, you have very little. Like, the more money they give you in a signing bonus, the more opportunity you have, because they've not only have they invested more money in you, but if they give you more money and you fail, the person who gives you more money, i.e. management, they look like an idiot, right? So the more money they give you, the more chances that you're going to have to succeed. So if they sign me as a free agent for like $1,000 or something like that, it's going to be very, very difficult to make it. And I thought it wasn't worth it. I thought maybe the best route was to try to go back to college, play Division II, and get drafted again. That I could really shine there and get drafted again. But that didn't happen because, one, I think I had lost a little bit of the desire, of the real, drive to do it.
But singing was now picking up steam. It feels like.
Yeah, but singing was picking up steam in my mind. So I went to Queens College. And then
it's like your fifth university at this point.
Yeah, third.
All right, fair enough.
Third university. I went to Queens College. I sang for a voice teacher in New York City who had some students who had some very successful opera careers. And he said, you've got a good enough voice to be a professional opera singer. So that was all I needed to hear. I was like, yes. And I think that really my real thing that I'm naturally more gifted at, we're talking about like natural talents, is I'm a pretty good public speaker. I'm not nervous about singing in front of people. I'm a good performer. These are things that most people dread or have nightmares about.
Right.
For me, they're very easy, and I had a good resonant voice. But but then I went to Queens College and I didn't major in music because, one, I thought, what does majoring in music mean? Have to do with a singing career? It seemed kind of stupid, like learning music theory or whatever. If I can't sing well enough, like, what is that going to do for me? Which has its merits and has its demerits. So so I decided to major in psychology as sort of like a practical backup. I thought maybe I'd be a sports psychologist, who knows? But I started to succeed with my singing very, very quickly, very rapidly, and get a lot of attention for my vocal talent very quickly. So that kind of takes you to there, where I'm singing at like the age of 22 years old, and starting to really get attention for my voice as a baritone. So that's where I was there.
And at the same time, you go to college, and did you want to become a lawyer? Was that
No, that was not even in my mind at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was still living in my dream, like I'm going to be an opera. But the thing is, I also was kind of scared because I was like, what do I really want to do here? Like, what does my life really want to look like? You know what I mean? Like, do I really want to be an opera singer? I think that, like, working so hard at baseball and seeing what that took and the sacrifices that I made, I think it made me actually a little bit nervous to do that again.
Right. What if it doesn't work out? Right? Put all that effort in and get nothing in return?
Well, not even that, but it's just like you recognize, like, you accomplish something great and you realize that it doesn't make your life. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So that started to make me very, very, very philosophical, or started my road thinking about, like, what does all this shit that we're doing mean anyway? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. Do you have any insights to share with the audience? Like, what is
I don't know. I just, like, I think we have a big bias in this, in the world where, like, working really, really hard is a good thing and working really not hard is a bad thing. For example, this will remain nameless, but I was, like, reading the Instagram post of some guy who's very successful, in the sports world, and he was like, Yeah, when I started my first job at this network, I was in the office from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then I would go home at dinner, and I would come back to the office from 10 p.m. to 2 in the morning. And I always wanted to be the first to do this, and I didn't want to get beaten. And I started to read this thing, and I'm like, we look at this as if this is like some really, really great thing to aspire towards. But when I really look at it, it's like, this guy seems really fucking neurotic. Right. You know what I mean? Is he really happy? He's like, all he's doing is it's very easy to be successful. Just singularly focus and be obsessed with one thing and do it every day over whether you fail or whether you don't fail over a very long period of time.
Right. Most people don't have the patience.
Well, most people have the patience, but even when you get there, it's like, why is that a good thing to work obsessively like that? And after you succeed, what are you left with, by the way? Because one thing I learned is that when you become successful, you must be willing to deal with the consequences of your success.
Okay. Care to expand on that? Like, what are some consequences of your success?
Once you become a great neurosurgeon, you have to be willing to wake up every day for the next 25 years and say, everyone's depending on me. I have to do this right. If I fuck up, someone's going to die. Like, right. That's your life.
Right.
You've gotten there. You're a great neurosurgeon now, right? But what are the consequences of you being a great neurosurgeon? And if you don't want to do that every day, then whether you're a great neurosurgeon or not, doesn't matter. So like, that's what I mean by willing to deal with the consequences of your success, right? When I became a lawyer, and I became a lawyer at a big law firm, and you work your butt off there all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw the partners who are making millions of dollars, but they work constantly, and they've got all the pressure on them all the time. The client, if they mess something up, the client comes at them, right? All that. So it's like, yeah, you're making millions of dollars, but do I want to be looking at legal documents every day for 15 hours? Do I want to be getting screamed at by clients? Do I want to be waking up at 3 in the morning because my client has a problem? Do I want to be doing this on the weekends, on holidays? Do I want this to be my life for the next 30 years? Because if you become a partner, that's your life.
What about your family, your kids, hobbies? Gone?
What about just like existing as a human being? You know what I mean? Like, and people think, oh, well, this is good. But like, if I just want to like chill out and do nothing, that's bad. But in any absolute sense, none of them are good or none of them are bad. It's just what people think. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you. I do think we have a bit of a workaholic culture in the States. I mean, if you look at us, we have the least vacation days. There's no mandated vacation, like paid time off rather in most states. There's no maternal leave. We like to work. There's a bit, we idolize the dollar and we idolize work as a way to get a dollar. Which in reality, really, if you want to get lots of dollars, you should be investing in this crazy stock market anyway. Don't be working. Try investing. But have you ever tried mindfulness, like meditation?
Yeah, I got into meditation. I got into a book called The Book of Not Knowing by Peter Ralston, which really kind of blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I got into a lot of this stuff where I started to kind of see, the way I was living my life and accomplishments and things I was doing. And I was like, this stuff is torturing me in a way. So why don't I just stop?
Exactly. It's interesting.
Why don't I just stop?
All of this stuff we have, all this pain. I mean, at the end of the day, it's happening in our consciousness. It's happening in our heads, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It is self-generated. I mean, even if someone yells at you, you can then choose to let that go and not think about it, or just be,
right.
Or you can choose to obsess about it for the next 3 days and just work yourself into
Right.
a tizzy.
And also, like Ralston, he brings up in his book that everything's driven by, in some way, by your survival, you know? But if you, like, actually drop, if you can try to drop or do a self-experimentation and just, like, not care about your own survival, then really none of this even matters at all. Like, if you didn't care about survival and a shark attacked you, you wouldn't really care. It would just be something that happened to you. You wouldn't have
is
an
there to
emotional attachment
survive?
to it.
You know, what is there to survive? When I meditate, I am able to glimpse that there is no me. There's there's not, you know, we think there's this guy sitting in our heads. We think there's a constant, like, dialogue going on, and we think it's us. But if you meditate and you practice a long time, you can start to glimpse it. And people have done psychedelics, you know, they also have this experience called ego death, where you kind of start to glimpse that, people describe it as like you're just connected to consciousness all around. There's really no you there. When you look for yourself, it's not there. It's just another thought that arises.
Right. It's you are just your own thought. But, like, what is the thing having the thought?
There is no thing having the thought.
Right. So even what are you?
So
right,
then what are you even trying to survive? Exactly.
The more I got into these questions, the more I kind of stopped really caring about a lot of the things that I used to care about. And, like, one of the things I read in the Ralston book that was really interesting was he gave this example of these experiments to do with monkeys where they, like, reach into some sort of a bottle to grab some food.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the bottle is designed is that once their fist is closed, they can't pull the arm out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the monkey will just, like, grab the food and it'll just, like, literally stay there for hours with its arm stuck in a bottle because it won't let go of the food. And he kind of analogizes that to our suffering. You know, it's just like, if something is driving you crazy, let it go, right? It's just like, for me, when I was thinking about, oh my God, buying a house, right? Like, oh my God, I've got student debt to pay back. You know, I don't want to be in a job that I hate all my life. That's horrible. But if I'm not in a job I hate all my life, then maybe I won't be viewed as successful. And if I don't have a house, maybe I won't have this. But then I was like, wait a second. What if I just, like, let go of my desire to be successful? Well, then I can let go of the job that I really hate, that I only have because I want to be successful. That's actually causing me a lot of suffering. I can actually just let that go.
Right.
If I don't care about buying a house, then I can just let that go too. It doesn't, just let it go. Because people think objectively that these things, if they get them, are, like, real things that they need to get to better their lives, when they're not. They're just inventions. Like countries are also inventions. Everything is just invented by people. They're not true in the absolute sense.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think it's just like, you keep saying it, and I truly believe it, that, like, we have this view of, I'm gonna achieve this, I'm gonna get my $1 million, you know, beautiful wife, house, family, and I'm gonna be happy. And I guarantee it, for everybody who's gone there, they say, oh, that's not true. I'm not. In fact, they find themselves sometimes in almost existential angst, like all these things that I had to check the boxes of to get there. It's not actually giving me that much. And
there is no there.
There's nothing to check. There's nothing that will do
right.
that, which is something to keep thinking about. When you're just trying to survive because you're just working, like, paycheck to paycheck, or you're just busy all the time raising kids, like, it's easy to just be in the grind all your life, more or less. But then when you kind of, like to your point, have a lot of time to just sit and just be, you start to really think, what is it all about? It's
right. But people put themselves in the grind, you know what I mean? Because
100%.
people say, oh, well, you know, like in other cultures, you got to get married young, you got to have a family, you know, that's part of, like, the culture, you know? So once you burden yourself with those things, you know, it's okay, well, now I got to provide for it's all these things that come with things that people think you need to have. Right. So a lot of times cultures create burdens for people, right? Ralston talks a lot about that in his book. I described it a lot worse than him, but like, do you look to yourself, why should I let this thing called a culture? What is this thing, and why am I accepting its imposition on me of certain things that are actually just going to make me miserable, right? And I think the world would benefit by that a lot. So I mean, we've kind of actually kind of skipped a whole lot of stuff, because this is kind of actually where I am now. Whereas I'm really pursuing my singing, because I still sing opera. I took off a very, very long time because I actually messed up my voice very, very badly when I was. You remember this, Pablo, because you knew me back in 2009 when you were still in New York City, and I was convinced by a teacher that I should be a tenor. And I wanted to be a tenor actually inside, because it was part of my fantasy of being a great opera singer, was being a great tenor, like, Pavarotti or something. And I believed that I could do it. You know what I mean? Like that same, like, I can break through all those barriers just like I did with my running speed, and I could do it. And I learned I learned the hard way that I couldn't. I ended up really ruining my voice very, very badly. I ended up actually having a chronic jaw pain, and also there's a muscle that runs from the top of your larynx up to your chin. It's like right in that soft part under here. Yeah, it's called the hyoglossus, and it was very, very tense. And all of these muscles in my face were actually so tense from singing incorrectly that I had chronic pain for years. And so I stopped singing from like 24 until the age of like 32, really, where I wasn't really pursuing opera or wasn't really taking lessons. And I was just trying to figure out how to get my voice back. And then about a couple of years ago, I started singing again. Now learning what my real voice is, you got to learn how to balance your ambitions with reality. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got a voice. Your voice does certain things well. It's your voice. If you try to make it like someone else's voice or do what someone else's voice does well, you're going to run into some really, really big, big problems as a singer. So I kind of learned as I got older to balance that, and I've begun to unwind a lot of the vocal problems I have, and I've started to discover like the truth about what good singing is, how to sing operatically the right way. And that's been very, very fulfilling for me. And I'm doing it not, I've started to pick up some things for a career, and I do want to sing professionally, and I do want to sing operatic roles, and I do want to be a successful opera singer. But it's not about being famous or singing at the Metropolitan Opera, although I'd love to. But I love doing it. I love the process of becoming a better singer. And
what is it about singing that you love? Like, why? What so you took a long break, you came back to it now, and I'm sure you're coming out and you're saying you love it, you like the process. Like, what do you mean? Like, why? You just enjoy it every time you do it?
It's like to me, it's like a puzzle. Like, I really like the first of all, the expression part of it. I think I'm very expressive. And I think that finding my vocal efficiency or being vocally efficient is nothing but a mechanism of finding the most efficient way to express through song, and it's a talent that I have, and it's sort of unlocking it. And as I unlock it, I discover more about myself. And I think that that's a big thing. I want to unlock my full potential as a singer, because it's of importance to me. And then I do want to sing professionally, but I want to do it not because I'm a great self-promoter. I want to do it because I'm actually a very, very, very good singer. And I think I'm going to get there. Maybe 10 years after I would have, if I hadn't have made that big mistake I made as a young man in his early 20s. But I'll get there, and I think that that's the most important thing. And I'll have learned some lessons in the process, and now I have other things. I just got married.
Congratulations!
So
shout out to Lauren.
It's not just it's not just me making the decisions in my singing career anymore. If I get an opportunity to sing, I have to depend upon the good graces of my wife to allow me to go off to whatever opera house hires me and go sing.
So how does that work? Curious. Like, in baseball, there's all these camps, and like very few people actually make it to the major leagues, right?
Right.
How does the opera system work?
Well, you have young artist programs. They're kind of like the minor leagues of opera, but I'm kind of a little bit too old for that now at 35. So you sing, you get hired, you get a manager who likes you. You get hired at a smaller venue. You start to build your resume. Someone likes you, like anything else, and you get hired at a bigger place, and you sort of build momentum. I think it's
do you get paid to do a show, or do you get paid to join a
usually
theater?
Like if a company hires you, you'll get you're doing 6 shows in a month, or in 3 weeks, and you get X amount of dollars per performance. And so let's say you're making $7,000 per performance, $8,000 a performance, times 6-7 performances, and that's your pay for the.
That's amazing. Is that like for the top tier guys?
No, top tier makes more than that.
Okay, so you can make a living. The challenge is getting into it, getting into a company.
If you're getting hired regularly in like good houses, you'll make 6 figures.
And do most people move around different houses, or they become like a permanent person?
I mean, my friend John Tettleman, who's a pretty
you sang with him. You sent me the video, right? The two of you guys singing.
I
It was
recorded some
beautiful.
with him that are going to be released. Yeah, I mean, he's in Europe all the time. Sometimes he's away for like 5 months, where he's just kind of like, singing in Buenos Aires, and then he's singing in, he's got his next gig in Italy, and then he's got his next gig in England, and then he's got his next gig, in France, and each gig is a month and a half engagement.
So this time in your life, is he the guy you're looking at and like, oh, I can mimic him? Or you don't mimic him?
Yes, in a way where I'd like to. I definitely think he does. I mean, he's helped me a lot with my singing. And I think he has good advice on, how to do things in the business. But, the singing business is tough. But I'm really at the point where, like, if I tried to copy John's voice or anybody else's voice, then it's not my voice. You know what I mean? It's you have to release yours. You only have. It's like trying to change your fingerprint. You know what I mean? Like, if I try to change my fingerprint, my finger's not going to like that very much.
Release your voice. I remember you telling me, Pablo.
You could be more efficient there.
I'm sure I could, right? But you told me, like, hey, Pablo, you have a voice. You could do something with that. And a long time ago. I always loved that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But most people think an opera voice is like, ooh, ooh, like kind of internal, like, ooh.
Right.
But you kind of be like, oh, oh. You keep the integrity of the vowel with the space. So it's like, ah, oh, oh, not oh, oh.
Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to practice that one. You sound good though.
You went into oh. You went into kind of a falsetto, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I can do that would be falsetto.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But then you have your high notes, which is a combination. You have
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I don't.
And by the way, even though that sounds good, that could be better.
Of course, sure.
Clear. It's because it's like in singing, it's like any grunt, any hold is going to hold back the sound. You want to hold it, you want to be like it's got to come out like you're letting your air, like you're going, like you're blowing your air out.
Yeah, you told me that before. I don't want to practice right now. People.
It's a complicated, balanced coordination to do that.
Interesting. Your
Yeah.
neighbors must love you. Do you sing in the
Well,
shower?
now I moved into a house, so now I actually can sing as much as I want,
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
is great.
Whereabouts?
Hicksville, Long Island. It's like right on the border of Hicksville and Syosset.
Awesome. Long Island,
We
baby.
decided to get out of the city because it's kind of shut down anyway and kind of stinks, But now it's frankly it's actually cheaper to rent a house in Long Island than it is to rent an apartment in New York.
It's crazy.
And now that I'm working from home pretty much all the time, it's like it's kind of a no-brainer.
What's your this COVID thing that's happening? Are you tired of it? Are you done?
I'm personally not scared of it. I have no idea what's going on. The more I like read about things and the more I kind of like think about it, the more I realize like I don't know what's going on. No one really actually knows what's going on because like even people that are experts, the one thing I've realized what made me doubt a lot of things was like seeing the top of a lot of professions like opera, baseball, lawyers. I would say that like 90% of, let's say, voice teachers in opera, know just enough to be dangerous, but aren't like really experts. I found that like only very, very, very few people in any profession are really, really experts in their profession, meaning like when real subtlety is there, they can like really distinguish it. You know what I mean? And know what's going on. Most people are just sort of like generically good, or like they know enough that they learned in school to get by or do it. So they're not really know what's going on. But to make that one point, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. It just seems very, very weird to me. You have all these protests. They say nobody contracted it. Then in Florida, you have breakouts. It's just like the whole thing just seems very, very strange to me.
Are you sitting at home? Or are you going out? I mean, things are probably
No,
closed.
I go out. I go out without fear, and I really only wear a mask to because I don't want to deal with people being like, hey, put on a mask. So
Right. Sure. Grocery stores or whatever. You guys go to like a bars open, restaurants open?
Outdoor seating.
And you guys are okay
And
doing that?
I think that there is, in Long Island at least, indoor seating, but limited. But a lot of people have had a lot of trouble. Like, I mean, I know opera singers who can't afford it and have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars from canceled performances.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Hundreds of thousands.
So what's your trajectory now in opera? Like, how do you? I mean, and if it's secret, you don't have to give it away. But how do you get yourself in a position to actually sing?
I think I actually got some interest in from a manager to hear me from when I sang those duets. So that's going to come out. Hopefully, I'll sing for a manager. I'll get more opportunities to sing, and you just keep singing. And the more people that hear you, then the more people you meet, and that's how you advance. Somebody likes you. Hey, I need somebody, or you like. Or right now, like I'm learning roles, right? Like I'm learning this role of Marcello in La Boheme because, you get a manager or you get somebody that likes you. Singers get sick all the time. Oh, somebody gets sick, they're canceling. We need somebody to step in. Oh, this guy Adam's got a great voice. Why don't we give him a shot? So you just kind of...
we have to know the part.
But like the real thing is just becoming better, singing for people, and getting my voice out there, and then just seeing what happens, and I do it, and I'm ambitious about it, and I'm working hard at it, but it's not my entire life the way baseball was when I was younger.
How do you get better? Is it through just singing it every day, practicing?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, for example, when I sang that note before, I felt a little bit of tension underneath my tongue. It's like, okay, well, how do I get rid of that? How do you start to get attuned to subtleties, right? Like, how do I, and then
and you
like,
get that through practice, basically.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what if I wanted to, instead of going, oh, What if I wanted to sing it like lightning?
Yeah.
And or is the sound really clear? You know, is there breathiness in the sound? You know, is there like a and you start to get different sensations, you know, of what it's like, and about opening up your it's kind of like, you know, like if you were gonna snore and you're like, when you open up, it's like a yawn.
Yeah.
And you feel your Adam's apple drop, like your Adam's apple drops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want your larynx to be low, you know, and then it's learning like, okay, how do I here's the thing, right? Changing vowels, like singing e, I, o, u, right? In speech, you go like e, I, o, u. Now in singing, it would be e, o. So like you basically want to keep the resonance the same without changing by changing a vowel.
Mm-hmm.
So I can try to change a vowel by going like and I didn't move my mouth much.
Have you ever thought about becoming a Hazan, one of those guys who sings in the synagogue?
Yeah, and I actually got I'm not, well, this would be another obstacle. I'm not religious. I don't read Hebrews. You have to learn all those prayers. I mean, that would just take a tremendous amount of time.
Sure.
But I got really into this guy. I've actually gotten really into, about 100 years ago, there were incredible cantors, actually from kind of where you're from, like Ukraine, Russia, just incredible. They're incredible singers. I mean, really, the best I've ever heard. And I got really into listening to them. There's this guy, Yosela Rosenblatt, who was a great cantor back in the early part of the 20th century.
Wow.
And these guys were just incredible. And I actually got a book of music, classical cantorial pieces that he wrote. And they're incredible. And the singing is incredible. And not only, you know, they can do very, very fast coloratura, which means like move like, they do very fast runs with their voice. They have very great ability to mix the falsetto with their real voice. So in other words, like you have your chest voice, like you have that falsetto, like ooh, right? So it's like, but can you mix them? You go ooh. Can you like bridge down from your falsetto into your real voice without there being a break? And by a break, I mean like, ooh, you hear it break?
Right.
There, it's breaking.
We have a couple of recurring segments.
Coordination skill that you develop.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, and again, practice and listening to other things, and so that's your. And then in this today's world, it sounds like managers are a way for you to get in.
Yeah, managers, singing for people, you know, getting the opportunity even in a small opera house, even locally, to just sing something, you know. I think social media is big, but just like anything else, it only takes one person to really like you, you know. When I was going to get drafted, only the Yankees and the Cincinnati Reds were going to draft me. So out of like, you know, 32 teams, 2 teams like me, but all it really takes is one. So I think if you've got a passion for something, it can't be manufactured. You know, that's the one thing I've discovered. I tried to be different things. I tried to be a lawyer. I tried to be,
You're still a very good lawyer, by the way.
I'm still a good lawyer, but that's just my day job. But I tried to get into economics. I tried to get into all these different things. I tried to be an entrepreneur. I was reading Gary Vaynerchuk stuff. I was doing like all of these things. And then I realized like, this is actually making me miserable because I am having to force myself to be motivated at something that's not actually really who I am.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And then I began to realize, like, wait a second, if you're really motivated at something, you don't need Gary Vaynerchuk to tell you to do it. You're gonna do it. And by the way, if you really love something the way I love to sing, it doesn't matter what obstacles you go through, you're going to keep doing it because you genuinely love it.
Right.
And you're doing it because you love it. No one can tell you that. No one can give that to you.
Yeah, it's a good thought there. There's a recurring segment on the podcast called Hot Tips where you just can give any advice, any tip to the world, and it's called Hot Tips. Hot Tips! It's time for Hot Tips. It's time for Hot Tips. Hot Tips. So yeah, do you have anything you can? You've given us a lot of good stuff. Just it can be a book, it can be a thought, it can be anything you want. A hot tip.
Yeah. My hot tip. If I had to say anything, it would be honest with yourself about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Don't try to be anybody else, and go for the things that allow yourself to go for the things that you genuinely like by just get there. You know what I mean? Just get there and make mistakes and keep going. I mean, I think there's no other way to do it but to try to do what you want to do with each day and try to learn the lessons of that day and move forward. And the thing is, no one can really give advice to anyone because we're all really ourselves. So really, just you're your own. It's like you're your own experiment. You
Right.
yourself.
I like that.
You are your own experiment. Your life is your own experiment on what it is like to be a being, and do that for yourself. Live that experiment to its fullest. That's my tip. Took me a while to get there, but you're an experiment, and live your experiment.
Approach your life as an experiment, right? No one else's. You get to do whatever you want and see what happens and try again. I love that attitude. I guess that's what it takes. I was going to ask you, how do I know what I like? And that's probably, I mean, you kind of gave us the answer here.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe like nothing, and that's okay.
Right.
I think that's the problem people have is they're looking for something to like. And when they think about the things to like, they think about the things that our culture says are the things that we should like.
Mm-hmm.
But you like doing this. You like doing this podcast.
I do.
So, like, stop trying to make yourself like something that you don't like. I think people already have the answers. They just don't want to really accept them.
Yeah, that's societal pressure, and like it's big. I think it's definitely
very big.
People,
but
peers, it's tough.
I wasn't tough. I realized, like, wow, I can't take this anymore. Because it was having an effect on my health, too, honestly.
You look healthy now.
Much healthier than I was 2 years ago.
Do you have any other thing I'm really curious, I like people's thoughts on, is like investment strategies for retirement.
Yeah.
A lot of people go for like index funds, or some people just, I'm going to pick Tesla or Apple. I'm going to buy whatever extra cash I have. I'm going to buy it.
Yeah. Well, so honestly, I'm not a big investor. One, I find investing boring. I don't know. I've never found internal motivation to do it. Like, it just seems like torture for me, so I just don't really engage in it. Like, I stopped making myself do things that I don't want to do. That being one of them. Maybe when I have kids or something, I'll figure that out. But I don't want to do it, so I don't do it. I'm not really that interested in it, so I don't do it. So I'm not really the person to ask.
That's fine. I mean, but so what do? You sit on cash? What do you do with your savings?
I just try to live within my means. I did buy some physical gold and silver about 2 years ago, just to have.
Great idea.
So I have that. I've got a 401k. I don't know what's going on with it, but yeah, I mean, if I went and I picked stocks, I would just be, a monkey throwing darts at a dartboard.
No,
But
you don't want that.
I think a lot of people that invest, that think that they're experts, really, despite all the information they're intaking, are actually truly no better than a monkey throwing darts at a dartboard.
Oh, I know.
And Nassim Taleb talks about that in his book. I think Fooled by Randomness, another great book that really changed my view on things.
Fooled by randomness. Okay.
Yeah. It's basically about the fact that things happen in the world in people's lives, and they think that there's some sort of cause when they're just fooled by randomness.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, people love that. My mom, she's always looking for signs and this and that, and like her leg hurts. It's because yesterday was raining and today it's too humid. I'm like, really? It's
Yeah.
interesting. Hey, this has been awesome. I love your takeaways. I think follow your passions. Don't do what you don't want to do, and really remember this: you're just living your own experiment. Don't let anyone else set the rules for you. Don't do anything bad. Don't hurt other people. But otherwise, be whatever you want to be. Try it out.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely, because at the end of the day, our lives all end in disaster, and the fact that we'll all be dead.
Can you sing Conte Partiro, like those verses for us?
Yeah. Conte Partiro, paesi, vengono mai, versata con te, adesso si vivrà.
Conte Partiro. Wasabi. That's all I know. Oh man, you're good though.
Thank you, sir.
Does that mean till we meet again?
Of course, anytime, man. Hopefully I'll be out in San Diego soon.
This is awesome. Thanks so much for doing this.
All right, man. Thank you, Pop.